So the next one is defensiveness. So defensiveness, to me, that means that a person doesn't even hear what you're saying at all. They're just defending themselves. They're actually not listening because probably how you said it made them feel really insecure. So in order to break out of defensiveness isn't productive communication. So if you hear someone saying something upsetting to you, you could say, that's really hard to hear. I don't think that's all of me, but, and it would help if I heard you say some things that I'm doing and some things that you'd like me to do differently. Maybe we both can do that. But if it feels like an attack and that all you do is defend, then you're going to be at a crossroads. So one of the ways to deal with a situation, if you are provoking defensiveness, and let's say the person is just a very sensitive person, so they're always going to be defending themselves because they have low self-esteem, or you know that about them, then you might want to talk about the other side and then bring the side that is hard for you. Otherwise, what happens for the other person is they're shifting blame, or another way that they might be responding to is just playing victim, which means the conversation basically ends. Yeah, I'm a loser. I can't do anything right by you. And therefore, there's no way out. Do you see that the four horsemen really point out that there's no other way to manage the situation except for to feel discouraged that there's no way to resolve, there's no way to repair? So the last one that is in the four horsemen is called stonewalling. And stonewalling can be very similar to silent treatment. And I think about this as the person is just avoiding conflict because they don't know how to deal with the conflict, and they also don't know how to deal with soothing themselves. And so they're going into, I'm not going to be reactive, so I'm not going to even allow there to be any repair because I'm not going to bring it up. I'm just going to disengage from the relationship. And to me, that speaks about lack of capacity, and that there's a lot of places to grow right here. And some of what the growth would be is if you're the one that stonewalls, then you would look at, like, how do you self-soothe? How do you come back into the situation and start regulating a little bit? Regulating mean like you can hear a little bit, and then you're also needing to make sure that the other person is emotionally developed enough that they can tell you appreciations and what they're trying to communicate, which is upsetting to them, that there can be both, and that you can hold both and they can hold both. Like, you're not all a bad person, they're not all a bad person. And so the other part is to make sure, and that's why a lot of people go to therapy or have mediators, is they want to have another person sort of that's a neutral party that can hold that space. So if any of these things happen, especially stonewalling where there's no conversation, to me that really speaks to there's no ability to have conversation, and that to have a model of somebody that can say, okay, now can you calm down and think about how you're speaking or what you're about to say and what's the most important thing to say? I statements, being respectful, not generalizing in criticism, that kind of thing. So what's really interesting about conflict is conflict doesn't define whether a relationship's going to end. What conflict actually challenges the relationship to do is, are both people emotionally developed enough to repair the conflict and to create a new connection or understanding with each other so that you don't cross those lines with each other again and sort of get into the same patterns. People who've been together forever and ever most of the time create kind of bad communication patterns because we do a lot of mind reading in relationships. And so being able to dig a little deeper, be a little fresher, even think of a thing like, if this was someone who I was a new friend of mine, would I ever talk to them like this? I always think it's good to take a breath of fresh air and have a situation be like, this person might be a little too close to me. I might not have good boundaries with them. We might be a little bit too enmeshed. So I can't really see or hear what I'm doing. So self-reflection is always important. And my question to you today is, Can you look at the parts of yourself that need to develop in order to have better relationships and in order to resolve conflict? If the other person doesn't want to resolve the conflict, you still need to deal with how you're going to handle that, especially if that person's in your community or in your family or your partner. So that might mean, okay, things might build up over time. So I need to really watch that and make sure that as there's a saying that happens in AA, which is in the 12 steps programs, which is keep your side of the street clean, which means don't talk negatively about that person. Make sure that you're improving your own communication style, really looking at the areas that you need to grow within yourself, and admit that we're all human and we all make mistakes, because that's also a part of life. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. More to come.